Let's begin with something that's rarely discussed but profoundly important: the relationship between aging and personal habits that impact our overall well-being. One of those habits is masturbation, a topic surrounded by social taboos, which often prevents open and meaningful conversations. But here's the truth: it's a subject that deserves attention, understanding, and a thoughtful approach, especially as we grow older. As we age, our bodies and minds undergo changes that can feel unfamiliar or even confusing. Many seniors find themselves asking, is this normal? Is this healthy? Are there consequences I should be aware of? These are natural and valid questions, but answers can be hard to find due to stigma or embarrassment surrounding sexual health discussions. The good news is, you're not alone in your curiosity, and it's okay to seek clarity. Let me introduce Irene. Irene is 67, widowed, and adjusting to life after losing her partner. In recent years, she's noticed a change in her intimate habits, including how she approaches self-care and physical release. While she initially found it comforting, she now feels a lingering emptiness afterward and isn't sure why. Then there's Paul, a 73-year-old who lives independently. Paul has been relying on certain routines to cope with feelings of loneliness, but has started noticing that they don't always leave him feeling good. Instead, he's been experiencing fatigue and a sense of guilt that he can't shake. Irene and Paul's experiences are far from unique. Many seniors grapple with these feelings, though they often don't share them openly. This makes it harder to recognize patterns and understand how personal habits, like masturbation, might be impacting their emotional or physical health. Their stories highlight the importance of discussing this topic openly and with care. In today's video, we're going to gently and thoughtfully examine some of the disadvantages of masturbation, particularly for older adults. This isn't about casting judgment or making anyone feel ashamed. Instead, it's about exploring the nuances of how certain habits can influence our overall wellness, especially as our bodies and lives evolve with age. We'll look at this subject from multiple angles: emotional, physical, and even relational, so you can gain a balanced understanding and make empowered decisions about your health. Together, we'll break down the barriers of stigma and talk about what's often left unsaid with kindness and honesty. When we think about self-care or managing our emotions, it's easy to turn to habits that provide comfort or a quick release of stress. For many, masturbation becomes a private way to cope with emotions such as loneliness, anxiety, or even boredom. But what happens when this habit starts to affect your emotional well-being in unexpected ways? Let's return to Irene. She remembers how, in the early days after her husband's passing, masturbation felt like a way to soothe the deep ache of loneliness. At first, it provided her with a momentary escape from the overwhelming sense of loss. But over time, she noticed a shift. The sense of relief became fleeting, and instead of feeling comforted, she often felt empty and detached afterward. Irene began to question if this habit was truly helping her, or if it was masking deeper emotions she needed to address. Paul, on the other hand, turned to the habit as a way to manage stress and frustration. Living alone, he sometimes found himself overwhelmed by feelings of isolation. He used masturbation as a way to fill the silence, but over time, he started to notice a lingering sense of guilt. He couldn't explain why, but it felt as if he was avoiding something rather than addressing it directly. These emotional responses, emptiness, guilt, or even increased anxiety, are not uncommon. While masturbation is often seen as a natural and harmless activity, for some people, especially seniors, it can lead to a cycle where emotional needs are temporarily dulled, but not truly resolved. This can create a pattern of avoidance, where deeper feelings such as grief, sadness, or disconnection are pushed aside rather than addressed. Studies have shown that over-reliance on habits like masturbation to manage emotions can sometimes interfere with mental clarity and emotional resilience. Instead of confronting the root causes of difficult emotions, the temporary release may become a substitute for addressing underlying needs. This can lead to a sense of dissatisfaction over time, as the habit no longer provides the same emotional relief it once did. It's important to remember that these experiences are deeply personal. Not everyone will feel this way, and for some, masturbation may play a neutral or even positive role in their lives. However, if you find yourself relating to Irene or Paul, if you've noticed feelings of guilt, emptiness, or emotional imbalance, it's worth taking a step back and reflecting on your habits. Are they truly serving you? Or are they filling a gap that could be addressed in a healthier, more fulfilling way? Emotional well-being is a cornerstone of healthy aging. Recognizing how habits impact your feelings is the first step toward creating a life that feels more connected, intentional, and satisfying. As we age, our bodies undergo natural changes that affect our energy levels, muscle tone, and overall health. These changes also extend to our sexual health, making it important to examine how certain habits, such as masturbation, may impact our physical well-being. While this activity is often viewed as harmless, for some seniors, it can present challenges worth considering. Take Paul, for instance. He started noticing that after frequent episodes of self-care, he often felt drained, not just emotionally, but physically. His energy levels dipped, and he found it harder to focus on his hobbies, like woodworking or gardening. At first, he attributed this to age, but over time, he began wondering if his habits were contributing to this fatigue. One of the reasons behind this feeling lies in the body's natural physiological responses. Masturbation triggers the release of chemicals such as dopamine and oxytocin, which are associated with feelings of pleasure and relaxation. While this can provide a temporary boost, frequent engagements can also lead to a crash once these chemicals subside, leaving you feeling more tired or depleted than before. In addition to energy levels, physical strain can also be a concern. Irene, who deals with arthritis in her hands, began noticing increased discomfort after certain activities. She hadn't connected this to her habits initially, but realized over time that repetitive motions were aggravating her symptoms. For seniors with joint issues, mobility challenges, or cardiovascular concerns, it's important to be mindful of how physical habits can exacerbate existing conditions. Another consideration is the potential for increased sensitivity or irritation. As we age, skin becomes more delicate, and hormonal changes can impact lubrication, making tissues more prone to discomfort. Over time, this can lead to minor but persistent irritations, which, if ignored, could become bothersome or even require medical attention. For some, excessive frequency of this activity may also contribute to pelvic floor strain. The pelvic floor muscles play a critical role in bladder and bowel control, and for seniors, maintaining their strength is essential. Overuse of these muscles without proper care and exercise could lead to symptoms such as incontinence or discomfort. It's also important to consider how habits can influence sleep patterns. While many people assume that the relaxation following masturbation can aid sleep, studies suggest that overuse can sometimes disrupt natural circadian rhythms, particularly if it becomes a late-night activity. Poor sleep can have a cascade effect on your health, impacting memory, mood, and even immune function. Being mindful of these potential physical effects doesn't mean avoiding the activity entirely. It's about balance and awareness. For seniors like Irene and Paul, making small adjustments, such as reducing frequency or exploring alternative relaxation techniques, can lead to improved energy levels and overall comfort. Listening to your body is key. If you notice patterns of fatigue, discomfort, or other physical concerns tied to your habits, it might be time to consider new approaches to self-care that align better with your body's changing needs. When it comes to personal habits like masturbation, the focus is often on individual experiences, how it affects your body, emotions, and overall well-being. However, these habits can also have a ripple effect on your social life and relationships, even if they seem private and contained. As we grow older, maintaining meaningful connections becomes increasingly important for our mental and emotional health. which is why it's worth considering how certain patterns may influence those around us. Take Irene's story a step further. Irene has a close friend named Alice, who is part of her weekly knitting group. Irene always looks forward to their meetings, but lately she's found herself pulling away. She's less inclined to reach out to Alice for a chat or accept invitations for coffee. Irene realizes she's been using her alone time for personal habits and has started to feel a subtle shift, less motivation to engage socially and more contentment in isolation. This isn't unique to Irene. For many seniors, private habits can unintentionally create a sense of emotional withdrawal. While solitude can be healthy in moderation, it's important to recognize when it begins to replace the rich, meaningful connections that truly nourish us. Over time, this can lead to feelings of loneliness, even as the habit itself becomes a way to avoid those feelings. For Paul, the relational impact showed up in his interactions with his adult children. Paul's son, Matthew, noticed his father seemed distracted during their weekly video calls. Paul, who once loved hearing about his grandchildren's latest achievements, often appeared preoccupied or rushed to end the conversation. When Matthew asked if everything was okay, Paul found it hard to articulate what was on his mind. He realized that his habits were becoming a quiet escape from the stresses of maintaining relationships. But this escape was beginning to create a disconnect between him and his family. There's also the potential impact on romantic relationships, whether current or future. For seniors who are dating or in a partnership, excessive focus on personal habits can sometimes lead to a lack of intimacy or diminished interest in shared experiences. Masturbation, if over-relied upon, might unintentionally take the place of opportunities to bond with a partner, either emotionally or physically. In some cases, these habits can even influence how one views relationships overall. If you've grown accustomed to seeking comfort or connection through solitary means, it might feel more challenging to reach out to others for support or companionship. This can create a cycle where the habit becomes a substitute for real-life connections, gradually narrowing your social world. Understanding the social and relational implications of personal habits doesn't mean giving them up entirely. Instead, it's about being mindful of how they fit into your life and whether they're enhancing or limiting your ability to connect with others. For Irene, this meant setting small goals to re-engage with her knitting group and inviting Alice for a walk in the park. For Paul, it involved consciously prioritizing his family calls and finding joy in the stories his son and grandchildren shared. Our relationships are among the most fulfilling aspects of life, particularly as we age. By taking a thoughtful approach to your habits, you can ensure they complement, not replace, the connections that bring meaning and joy to your days. Habits, like any part of life, can serve us well in moderation, but may require adjustment when they begin to take more than they give. Masturbation is no exception. For seniors, understanding its potential disadvantages, emotionally, physically, and socially, presents an opportunity for growth and self-awareness. This isn't about judgment or rigid rules. It's about finding balance and nurturing a sense of emotional freedom. Let's revisit Irene. After reflecting on her feelings of emptiness and disconnection, she began exploring ways to bring more joy and fulfillment into her life. She started journaling about her emotions, writing down the thoughts and feelings that often arose after moments of self-care. This simple act allowed her to see patterns she hadn't noticed before. For example, Irene realized that on days when she reached out to friends or spent time on hobbies like gardening, her need for private habits decreased. For Paul, balance came through mindfulness practices. He began starting his mornings with deep breathing exercises and a gratitude journal. By focusing on what he was thankful for each day, Paul found that his emotional needs were met in a way that felt more meaningful and lasting. Instead of turning to habits to fill a void, he began addressing the underlying feelings of loneliness that had crept into his life. It's important to remember that habits like masturbation are not inherently harmful. For some people, they can be a natural and positive part of life. The key lies in understanding the role they play in your routine and whether they align with your overall well-being. If they enhance your life without causing physical discomfort, emotional turmoil, or relational strain, then they may be serving a healthy purpose. However, if you notice signs of imbalance such as fatigue, guilt, or isolation, it might be time to take a closer look. Reflection is the first step toward finding balance. Ask yourself, what role does this habit play in my life? Does it bring me comfort, or is it masking deeper emotions I need to explore? Are there other activities that could fulfill these needs in a healthier or more enriching way? For Irene, part of the answer was reconnecting with her love for painting. She found that immersing herself in creative expression provided an outlet for her emotions and brought her a sense of accomplishment that her private habits couldn't. Paul, on the other hand, discovered the joy of joining a local walking group, where he not only improved his physical health, but also built meaningful connections with others. Creating a more balanced life doesn't mean giving up the things that bring you comfort. It means ensuring they fit into a larger picture of wellness and fulfillment. By exploring new hobbies, strengthening relationships, and addressing emotional needs directly, you can free yourself from reliance on any single habit. This freedom allows you to focus on what truly brings happiness and purpose to your life. Taking time to reflect and adjust your habits is an act of self-care in itself. It shows that you value your well-being and are willing to invest in a life that feels vibrant and connected. As we wrap up this conversation, I want to acknowledge the courage it takes to reflect on sensitive topics like this one. Talking about habits, especially those as personal as masturbation, isn't easy. It requires a willingness to be honest with yourself and explore areas of your life that may not always feel comfortable. But by doing so, you open the door to greater self-awareness, emotional freedom, and a more fulfilling lifestyle. What we've discussed today is not about creating rules or judgments, but about empowering you to make choices that align with your well-being. Whether it's finding balance, nurturing relationships, or discovering new ways to care for your emotional and physical health, the goal is to build a life that feels more vibrant, joyful, and connected. I encourage you to take a moment after watching this video to reflect on what you've learned. Are there areas in your life where you could create more balance? Are there emotions or needs that could be addressed in a different way? Perhaps it's time to reconnect with an old friend, pick up a new hobby, or simply pause to appreciate the moments of joy and connection that already exist in your life. Remember Irene and Paul, their journeys of self-reflection weren't about eliminating habits entirely, but about understanding their needs and making thoughtful adjustments. Like them, you have the power to make choices that support your happiness and well-being. Before you go, I want to thank you for being part of this important conversation. Your willingness to engage with topics like these is a testament to your commitment to your own growth and wellness. At The Elder Voice, our mission is to support you every step of the way with care, empathy, and practical guidance. If this video resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. Let's continue building a community where we can talk openly and learn from one another. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, The Elder Voice, for more discussions about living well and thriving in this chapter of life. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. What topics would you like us to explore next? Your feedback and stories inspire us and help shape future conversations. Until next time, take care of yourself and the ones you love. Remember, every small step toward balance and self-awareness is a step toward a life filled with meaning and joy. Let's stay connected. Your voice matters here at The Elder Voice.